Hello, hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Susan Evans, and I am honored to welcome you to today's webinar about recruitment, about jobs at Kensington, about opportunities in senior living as a career. We would love to hear from the audience today. You can use the Q&A function about what you're looking for so we can answer your questions. I was introduced to senior living 10 years ago. My father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and we made the difficult choice to move him into a senior living community, and we chose Kensington Senior Living because they are the gold standard in memory care. They have many different opportunities in independent living, in assisted living, and in memory care. And we chose Kensington because we knew we only had to move my father once. Kensington focuses on relationship-based care, care built on the foundation of their promise to love and care for your family as they do their own. It is programs such as the one you are attending now that are so important for those of us walking through a caregiver journey to hear from expert professionals. Today, you will hear from three incredible women that have started their career in senior living with Kensington, and also Robert May, the executive director at Kensington and Redondo Beach. Kensington has 8 communities, 5 located on the East Coast and 3 located in California. And without that, I'm going to ask Robert to please join me. Hello, Robert May.
Good afternoon, Susan. I'm also honored to be part of this conversation with all of these talented young individuals who have already contributed so much to make Kensington Senior Living what it is today.
And I will share with the audience, I've known Robert for 5 years, 4 years,
That is
a lot of
correct, 5
years,
years.
a lot of years, a lot of years. And we've had a lot of fun. We've had a lot of challenges. But when I say Kensington is the gold standard in memory care, Robert May is the gold standard in executive director in senior living. So share with us a little bit about who you are and why are you so good at your job, Robert?
Well, first of all, Susan, thank you for those compliments. My career in senior living grew from from introduction to care at a very young age. My mother was a registered nurse and who really started assisted living in Canada 55 years ago. I didn't really know what this industry was, but I was essentially born into it. And at a very early age, I was a caregiver. And there's many of us who are on this call who have family members that they're looking after that maybe they've had no formal training, but because of supporting their family, they are in fact providing care for brothers, sisters, loved ones, aunts, uncles, grandparents. And so I grew up in that environment and I had an affinity for it, I believe. And it's not the only thing I did in my career, but it was an introduction to elders. Now, the interesting thing about that is that all of us who were introduced to elders and care at a young age return to it later on in life. So there's something that happens when you are set to look after individuals. There's something about compassion, empathy that transcends all these years and careers and brings us back to looking after individuals. So my journey started a long time ago. I had the opportunity 5 years ago to join this company called Kensington Senior Living. I knew one of the owners, Tiffany Tomaso, from a previous job where she was chief operating officer of Sunrise Senior Living. But I was introduced to this. I never really knew what the tenets were of Kensington Senior Living. And I realized early on that they are concerned about one thing, and that one element is care. Everything they do has something to do with care and the importance of care. And for me, that was life changing. I hadn't experienced that in many different companies I had worked with. That was never the prime focus for being in this industry. And I realized that I had never come across that mission statement before, really to provide extraordinary care. Now, to provide extraordinary care, you have to have remarkable individuals to support you along the way to be able to achieve that. You have to have an owner group. You have to have partners who, understand what care consists of. And so for me, that opportunity was revelational. And I realized that all of the training that my mother had given me, right, as being nurse centric, being care centric, came back around years later. And for some of you who are listening to this today or will listen to this in the future, your lives probably already are involved with care. And those are some of the individuals we want to come join the Kensington. So you're already on this journey of providing care, if that's one of the things that you're interested in doing. So why not come work for the very best Kensington, senior living organization, wherever you live on the East Coast or the West Coast, and we'd love to have you. You're fortunate if you discover Kensington Senior Living, because not very few companies actually work and provide the support like we do for anybody who joins the organization. And what I mean by that is just not caregivers, nurses, activities. This is all about care again, providing extraordinary care. To provide care, you need human beings. You can't do it without wonderfully compassionate individuals that we're going to share with you on this call today. Three individuals have done remarkable work for the Kensington, one in my own building here in Redondo Beach. So, it's a long journey. It's a wonderful career. You can see I'm a little older. I'm not going to be here for the long haul. And what we need younger people with a new vision, for a new passion to continue providing extraordinary care and leadership in this wonderfully positive growing industry.
You bring up something that I want to share with the audience, and I just looked at the audience that we have here, and I'd love to know. It would be great if you guys want to share what you're actually looking for, why you joined this call. Are you new to senior living? Are you working in senior living and looking to move companies? Because when you talk about care and you talk about your experience growing up taking care of your mother's patients or residents, we all know in longevity is a buzzword right now, right? Everybody, the longevity. And if you're familiar with the blue zones at all, it's all about extended family and grandparents working with children and children taking care of their elders. So I think you just nailed it on the head. This is good for everybody. It's empathetic. It makes you feel better about yourself, and it's going to make you live longer.
That is absolutely correct. And I think that also that's where a good culture comes in, a community. And I think you sense that when you walk in a building, you can sense whether or not that community has a positive culture. Are people smiling and greeting you when you walk into the front doors? Do you hear laughter? Do you hear do you hear engagement? And when you walk into Kensington buildings, you feel that automatically because our team members are engaged. I mean, they have tremendous empathy. They are compassionate. They're hardworking. And those are the individuals that we want to come work for Kensington Senior Living. It's that simple. Not everybody can do this job, right? But those individuals, that we're 8 buildings strong, are remarkable. It's a remarkable company that, we've had this mission of providing extraordinary care, and we've been able to deliver it for, many years. And that's a testimony just to the commitment of that vision.
I would agree with that. And I also, the care, but in my 8 years of visiting my dad 4 times a week, I was so impressed with the dining services, the dining team, the executive chefs, the effort that they put into the care for their residents and their guests is pretty extraordinary. So here's a question. I'm new to senior living. I'm very intrigued by what you're saying, but where do I start? Do I start in dining services? Do I start as a care provider? And if I start in dining services and I go, God, I really like the activities, what's the flexibility of moving jobs within once you start a job at Kensington, Robert?
Well, I think there's lots of flexibility. We want you to be also happy in your role here, and you might not initially understand what that could be, right? You might come in thinking you want to be a server. We have many, students come in who do a part-time job, either going to college or and end up, finishing high school, and then they come in and they realize, well, I love being a server, but what I really want to do is become a caregiver because when being a server, you're already engaging with residents and you're
Right.
talking to them about your lives, but they're telling you about their lives. So, you will mature into the role and you will identify with something that means perhaps more than you thought that it would before walking through the doors of the Kensington. So there's always opportunity. Um, we need people who are creative, hardworking, and also want to provide exceptional care. So there is always a place.
Hmm. And I just have to plug you one more time to the audience and to everybody that's going to be joining us in a moment here. But during COVID, when it was stressful for everybody, especially in senior living, it was really a very stressful time. And Robert made sure that the dining services, that every employee, every team member at his community, Kensington Redondo Beach, left each day with a bag of groceries for their family. And that's pretty extraordinary. So thank you for that. And Laura and Shami and Melina, can you join us?
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Welcome.
everyone.
Audience, you're in for a special treat hearing from these wonderful women. And Robert's going to join in as well. And I must say that I have known Laura since 2015, 9 years.
That's right, Susan. 9 years.
Actually, 10 years because it was in January. She actually opened the Kensington Place in Northern California and continues to have a career there and is a team member there and has worn many different hats. But you talk about care and you talk about a welcoming environment. I walk into that building and I see Laura and she has a smile ear to ear. And first thing she says is, "How are you? How's your mom? How's the family?" And you've just got such a big heart. So I'm going to start with you. If you would just share with the audience kind of what you do and what you've done at Kensington so they can get a little bit of an understanding of who you are.
Absolutely, Susan. Thank you. So I've been with Kensington 9 years. I did start off as a actually overnight lead concierge. After about, I want to say my second year with KSL, I decided that this was the company I wanted to grow with. And I started to move forward. I became the lead concierge in the morning, was promoted to the assistant to the business office. I became the business office manager. Then that role was separated into two. And now I am the manager of human resources and team member services.
So, audience, Laura's the perfect person for you to ask questions to. She's in charge of all the human resources for the building. Thank you so much, Laura. And Shami, let's go to you. I know your name doesn't say that on the screen, but everybody calls her Shami, including the
Yeah.
residents and the team members. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? So
Great.
yeah, everybody calls me Shammy, but my name is Shamarius. I've been with the Kensington for 8 years now, and I started off as part-time activity assistant. And then I just fell in love and I've been here ever since. I was an activity assistant for 6 years and then I became life enrichment manager. So I'm in charge of all the fun, is what I tell everybody. I'm in charge of all the fun, and I really focus on mind, body, spirit with all the residents and engaging them in every way I can.
And I have to add something about Kensington that is very unique because we're actually doing studies on this, is that Kensington every day has happy hour at 4 o'clock. And when my father first moved in there, I think it was Laura, she said, "Oh, you got to come for happy hour at 4." And I thought, where have I moved my father? They're they're doing a happy hour at 4. And I used to try to go every time they have live music. There is dancing, there is mocktails. They make it really special with little charcuterie plates and little appetizers or popcorn. And the residents are so fully engaged. And Robert is a musician as well. But music in a senior care facility, Kensington doesn't cut budgets there. And it is so powerful for the residents, for the team members. Everybody's up dancing, having fun. It's really an unbelievable experience. So if you come work at Kensington, you too can enjoy happy hour and dance and sing karaoke.
Probably nobody else does that every single day, 365 days a year. And if you're a team member or a caregiver, you're on the floor with residents who are attending. Family members also attend, with their loved ones. So it is remarkable. Music is always at the core of it. And, that's also something that really separates the Kensington, but team members love to have that level of engagement.
It's fun. And I think you
Yeah.
said fun, Shami. So let's have fun. Hopefully we can
Yeah,
have
lots
fun
of
at
fun
our
for
job.
everybody.
Exactly. And Malini?
Everyone. I started with Kensington in 2019, so in Redondo Beach. I started as a care partner, and then slowly worked my way in about a year to be a lead care partner, and then was given the opportunity to be an interim supervisor. And throughout that role, I then became the supervisor for assisted living. And so throughout that journey, I am now officially the assisted living manager. So I've gone through these tiers, but it's been really great team with all Kensington who work here. So I'm glad to be here.
Oh, we're so glad to have you. And when you're talking about that, and all three of you, not really Robert, he came in as an executive director and he remains an executive director, but when my father passed away from Alzheimer's, and the team at Redwood City, and I know Laura remembers this, they said, we want to do a memorial for my dad. And I said, "Oh, well, that's so sweet and so nice." I had no idea the relationships that he had made in the 7.5 years that he was there. It was the most emotional, spiritual, heartfelt memorial. I wish I had recorded it because the team members were telling stories about their relationship with, it's gonna make me cry, about their relationship with my dad. And that just tells you the leaders of Kensington, the philosophy that they have in instilling this type of opportunity for you guys to grow as people is pretty remarkable.
And Susan, also the other common thread here, all these three individuals have been with us for a long period of time. So, I mean, we really don't like turnover. We really want to have team members come and stay with us for the journey as long as they can. And, to become an executive director, I'm sure all three of these, or if they want that role at one point in their careers, they will become executive directors. And we need them to have that leadership role in the future if they so desire that. But we have longevity and commitment to our community, and to residents, and I think that's something in common that all three of them have.
Absolutely. And Laura, if you were going to give advice to someone about working in senior living, what would that just little piece of advice be?
I would say go for it. If you have the heart, that's like one of the things that, as someone who's, just interviewing all the time, I always ask people why senior living, and they'll tell me about their personal experiences, working with their grandparents or they've seen caregivers and now they're sort of intrigued in getting into this world. And I tell them, we can't teach you to have the heart. We can teach you how to do care, do activities, dining. But if you don't have the heart, this is probably not the place for you. You really need to have that compassion, that empathy, the patience. So if you're looking to get into senior care and you have, like you said in the beginning, if you don't know where you fit, just getting your foot in the door. I never really thought about senior care as my career. I was looking more into hospitality. It does go hand in hand, but go for it. Just give it a try, and you'll see that you'll find the right fit.
I'm going to say something, and then I'd also love to hear from Shami and Melanie. The same question about any advice you have, because we're getting questions now from the audience that they'd like to hear about that. But I want to talk just a little bit about, from all of you, about, you said heart, Laura, and I think that's so important because, in my opinion, just the time I spent there, my only responsibility was visiting my dad, but I developed relationships with the team members and with the other residents. I'm going to just go out on a limb here and say, I think it made me a better person. And just in the grocery store, an elderly man walks in and I say, can I help you? Can I get you something? Or why don't you go in front of me? So I think it also grows your heart and grows your empathetic, being and all that stuff. But Shami, why don't you talk about that and just talk about any advice that you may have? And somebody just asked, what were your qualifications prior to starting at Kensington? So I just asked you about 4 questions. So just go wherever you want.
So I can answer the qualification question because that's actually something that I enjoy talking about, because when I started, I actually had no experience at all.
Mm.
Like at all. I was a sophomore in college and I was looking for a job because I took a class on Alzheimer's and I thought it was really interesting. So the opportunity came to me and I was like, oh, they're probably not going to hire me because I don't have the background, I don't have any training, I don't have anything. But they were willing to train me and, build me up to be able to work with the residents and give me all the knowledge that I need. So I had no experience.
Except for a class you took that intrigued you.
Yeah, I think my probably what I was in school for gave me a little bit of a edge because I was in college for psychology and human services. So there probably helped too. But I didn't really have any job background in senior living or with residents and things like that. Yeah.
So I guess your advice is just go for it, just like Laura said. You never
Yeah,
know.
just like me.
I mean, you didn't have a huge big resume here. This is what I've done in senior living. You just went in and said, I'm a good person. I want to do this. And look at how look, the results are obvious. So
Yeah.
congratulations. Melanie, what were your qualifications and any advice you have for our audience?
Of course. So some of the qualifications was really, again, the heart, like Laura mentioned. Most of the time, like I've done interviews as well, and most of the time you can really feel it from that individual. But same with myself, I hardly had any experience in care. I did clinicals in one of the local sites nearby. And that was very eye-opening for me as far as what was care and just working with seniors. So I didn't really have much experience, but like mentioning, the training was very, very helpful. And one advice I can give is don't be afraid for a challenge. When you are up for a challenge, you can really then see, well, this might be a great fit for me, or hey, maybe I'm more interested in this. So don't be afraid, and ask those questions.
So, Robert, I'm going to ask you because you do the hiring. Well, Laura does the hiring too. But so someone comes in and their qualifications are, I'm a second year in college. I don't really have experience, but I want this, or I'm interested in this. And you can see that someone, what Melanie said was the challenge. What, do you hire them?
Well, I've been doing this for a while, and I think I'm pretty good at sussing out talent. And absolutely, I mean, there are individuals, they might not even know how talented they are, until we sort of find that role for them. But the other thing is, one of the common threads also here is that one started maybe as a caregiver, someone starts in the kitchen washing dishes. Don't be dismayed where you start. That's where you begin to learn. And the great thing about this industry, it is about knowledge. It's about gaining knowledge. Good employers provide the resources for team members to learn and to improve. And Kensington does that for you. And they make a tremendous commitment to training. So with training, you have knowledge. And when you have knowledge, you have power. And when you have power, you have opportunity. And so that's something that you have, team members, new team members, it is about, you coming in, being a sponge, learning as much as you can. And we know who you are. We know that those individuals who are keeners, who want to learn, who do more, who listen well, who study, we also suss them out because people tell me, care managers or fellow directors will say, that person who just started with us, she or he is really good. And so that's how we also cultivate talent. So come to work, come with your best face forward, come with a positive attitude because that will be rewarded to you many times over. There's not a lot of industries that we say that we can do that, that we make a difference in people's lives. Like you said, we really make a tremendous difference in people's lives looking at their residents, but we also make a big difference in your life. If maybe you didn't grow up in an environment that had a lot of empathy, maybe you didn't know what that looked and felt like, but here you're going to learn something that's going to, change your life. It will change the way you interact with your loved ones, with your family, with your boyfriend, your wife, your husband. And so it's also a life-changing opportunity to work in senior living.
Oh, I think that you just nailed that. And Laura, I'm going to come to you in a second, but I have a testimonial here from Earl. I'm going to read it to you. I joined Kensington Park over a year ago to help me with tips and ways for tips to help me care for my grandmother that had been diagnosed with dementia. I love that, Earl. And it says, I love it here. I've worked as a porter, a driver, and now I'm in dining. So there's a testimonial from Earl on the East Coast in Maryland. Thank you. And
That's
Laura,
fabulous.
what were your qualifications?
I did have, I'll agree with what Robert said earlier that I was introduced to senior care probably around high school. I started working as a dining server in an assisted living. And then I did 2 years and then I never thought about it again. And then in my 20s, that's when I got reintroduced to senior care. So I had prior experience, not many years, but I did have some years working as a caregiver. And I think once I joined KSL, that's where I got most of my more experience, and I got more training, a lot of training. So my qualifications were just being available, letting the team know that I was willing to give my 100% because I believed in their promise. And so, yeah, that's.
Let me share a little secret with you. When I find out that somebody was a server, maybe didn't work for us, originally worked for somebody else early on in their career, I will invariably hire that person because that person understands so much about what our industry already is. So when you're looking for a role, start as a server. It's a great place to understand our industry. And so why would I be interested in somebody who started out as a server and would hire them years later? Well, being a server is hard work. I know you have empathy because you have to be able to interact with your residents. And that you also have the wherewithal to be interactive because that server role is interactive. So there's a whole bunch of talents there that I look for. And when I find out that somebody started off in our industry, I'm that much more interested in, considering them for other roles.
I think that's great. And a question just came in from Martin, and I'm going to start with Shammy on it, but I'd like for you all to answer. Said, what are some of the best activities provided by the staff in helping residents maintain their dignity and independence?
So, dignity and independence. One of my favorite things to do when I was an activity assistant, and I still lead activities now, but when I was doing it more full time on the floor, um, after happy hour, there's sort of this time period before dinner where they might be sundowning. They might be going through different emotions. They want to do this, they want to do that. They're a little bit confused. And I like to do something, I just called it table games, right? But what it really was time for them to get focused in on what they enjoyed and what gave them purpose. So if one person wanted to sit there and read a book, she can sit there and read a book with peers who would also want to read a book. Or if the men wanted to play cards, you would give them cards and a care partner would sit with them and probably play cards. So things that would give them their own individual purpose and kind of solo time from the big groups and partying all day with me. So I really felt like that was such a good time to zone in on just them and who they are. And yeah.
So really what I think the common thread here is that Kensington does a really good job, and I think Robert actually said it, in training to understand aging, to understand dementia diseases, to understand recovery from a stroke, to understand Parkinson's, to understand Lewy body. So really the training is way beyond just helping someone to the dining table or serving someone their lunch. You really understand who that person is and some of their challenges that they're dealing with. So I love that. Anything to add, Laura or Melanie?
I think just to add on, what Shami said was, that pocket programming, making it personalized for the residents. Every resident has different likings, and that's providing them dignity, and they feel like an individual. So, yeah, I agree with her. Those are like the best activities that you can see in the community when they're just being themselves.
By the way, Laura, my dad used to run a company. And Laura knew he always wanted to go to meetings. He kept saying, when's the next meeting? So Laura would give him a pad of paper and a pencil. He couldn't even really write, by the way, and invite him to their team meetings. And he would sit in there and just think he was taking notes, and he'd come out just smiling ear to ear. I went to a meeting today. So that
That's
was
true. That's
very
true.
special for me. But Melanie,
Oh, sorry, Susan. He would come up to the front at the front desk, and in the morning he would ask, "What's the day like today?" He wanted to know what the day was like. So he was sort of like our mayor.
yeah, we have a meeting at 2. Okay, where should I be? Yeah. Melanie, do you have something to add about that? Just about the
Yes,
dignity?
of course. For me, it would be K Club. K Club is a program that we have in assisted living that are for residents living with dementia or brain changes. And it's a added layer of support for those residents. It supports them with their dignity. It supports them when, there might be sundowning. Um, they are lost. They don't know what's next. And so having that structure and having that support um, is something that we very much value here at Kensington. So K Club for sure.
K Club, by the way, is such a great program for you're not quite ready, but you need a little added support. So I think it's a wonderful program that we have. Anything that you want to share and we can start with anybody. Robert, if you want to start. Your role has evolved at Kensington, and really, what skills or insight have you gained in your role as it evolves as a person? I think, Robert, you talked about empathy, or understanding the aging process a little bit more, but is there anything else anybody wants to add in that? How your role has changed, your skill set has changed, how you've grown as an individual?
Well, being an executive director requires a lot of different skills, and you really have to be involved in the running of a building at so many different layers. But I think it's, to be understood, you have to know how to listen. And I think that, successful buildings have leaders who know how to listen, who are there for their team members, right? Who are reflective and can support their team members in whatever journey they're having. Of course, empathy, but also compassion. And those are all qualities that, we need to work on every day to make sure that, that what we do at the Kensington is consistent 365 days a year. It's a difficult business at times, but it's a very rewarding one. So, I mean, for me personally, it's always about refinement. Day to day. How can we do things better? How can we improve? How can we better communicate? And how can we put better, solutions in place for our residents and also team members to help them, provide better care? In the end, it still comes back to care and being able to execute on that.
Laura, Shami, Melanie, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I
ahead.
can add that I think what really sets the Kensington apart is our focus on PAC training, positive approach to care, and constant training the team on PAC and learning these new skills. I feel like is so important. I was luckily given the opportunity to go to North Carolina to become PAC certified as an engagement leader. And the way I approached it was kind of like, hey, I think this certification process will really evolve me and help me become a better life enrichment manager. And they were like, okay. And I went to North Carolina and I did this amazing training and learned so much more about, people living with dementia and how to, help them live a better life and just be who they truly are. So PAC is awesome.
What a gift from an employer to send you for that type of training. That's remarkable.
Anybody wants to make a difference in understanding this incredible journey, come to the Kensington, learn about PAC. We are devoted to PAC training. We had the fires here in Los Angeles at Sierra Madre, which is our sister community, and we went and supported them. They had to evacuate to the fires. And the one common thread that united all of our teams was PAC training. Because when our teams went to look after residents, they had that in common. It was like a common language of understanding how to care for individuals. And I know our Melanie here is also really involved in supporting PAC. Melanie, why don't you just share with us your journey into PAC?
Sure. Thank you, Robert. So positive approach to care. I was also given the opportunity to go to North Carolina, and that experience itself really changed me. And it really does change you as a person. I feel like I've grown since that experience, because now you're starting to train others. Now you want to see everyone, change their approach, change the way now they care for our residents. And it's something completely different. Maybe at times is a little bit out of, comfort. But most of the time, it's a great way to now encourage those caregivers, the dining service, the housekeeping. How would you do it differently? And so I think for Kensington and just talking about the Los Angeles fires, I was given the opportunity to go get one of our residents. And they had dementia and it was really hard for them. And so I had to get them in their wheelchair. And how do I do that? I don't know anything about this individual. And it was an emergency. So I automatically connected. Even though he had some mobility, functions that he wasn't able to do, I was able to do some touch with his hand, and I was calming him. And that was just Pac, me understanding. And so now he's here with us. And so now I'm training those who are in assisted living, how to care for him. So definitely positive approach to care. Pac is just something that will change you completely as a person, and really grateful that Kensington believes in this, and it radiates through all our communities.
Well,
And
it's an investment. I mean,
yes, and everyone, we're talking everybody in the community. So we're talking maintenance, housekeeping. Everybody gets PAC training. So it's just not for care managers or nurses. It's for everyone. We've made Kensington's made that commitment to change and allow change for everybody who works for us. So I think that's another great reason why you want to come and work for the Kensington. Come and gain knowledge, come and change your lives. PAC training does it. Nobody else does it like we do. So it's a wonderful opportunity for you to grow.
I've seen that firsthand with Laura in her first role as concierge. She knew the residents better than anybody, and she had so much training on distraction and comforting. And Martin asked another question about bridging spaces between residents and their loved ones, and it's all PAC training, and every team member understands the best way to help and assist and guide the residents with or without the loved ones that are visiting. And I'll start with Laura on this one. We've talked about heart, we've talked about care, we've talked about the promise, the Kensington promise that they really pass on to their team members, to care and love for the residents as they do their own family, just like their team members. What about the challenges? Like, there's got to be certain challenges. Do you have anything you want to share, Laura or Shami or Melanie, about a certain challenge and how you handled that and how you came through that?
Of course, I don't think just like any other family, we have challenges. Um, Communication, listening. Robert talked about listening. But when you come to work, for me, I don't feel like I'm coming to work. This is my second home. And so when I'm specifically working with so many team members, and they all want to come into the office and they have issues, and those challenges of I want to make sure I listen to them. I want to make sure that they're heard, and that we can help them in whatever situation that they're having. Making time for them. A lot of times it's just they need someone to talk to. So challenges, I mean, we all have them, and so we work really well with the leadership team, and I, I don't.
No, I think I've seen it. So I'm going to give one example and Robert, and everybody can add into this, but you have something called stand up. Is that correct?
Yes, every day we have stand up.
So tell the audience a little bit about stand up and how that brings the community together with what Laura was just saying of her intention of listening.
Well, every community has stand up. That means where directors and supervisors come into a room. It's a short meeting, it's 5 to 15 minutes, and we'll go around the room and ask everybody, well, what are the goals for the day, or what's ahead of you? And so they share with all the other individuals in the room what's going on in their respective department. But we get to hear, the team gets to hear about what's happening in the community, right? And then we might share some important messaging, or and share news, so everybody's there to be able to glean it at the same time. It's also a wonderful forum to offer thanks to everybody who's there when something remarkable happens. So it's a way of engaging our team on a daily basis.
I witnessed a stand up with Laura in Northern California where a team member had broken their foot. And it was so emotional. I was in there. I can't remember, Laura, why I was in there, but I was in stand up and they were talking about how they could support Steve with his broken foot. And team members were going to his house and walking his dog and making him meals. And he thanked everybody and he was very emotional about it, that it was it was like his family. So Laura, I agree with you on that. So audience, we're out of time, but I'm going to remind everybody there's been a few questions about that they want to apply for a position at Kensington. So that's super exciting. So Patricia and others that have inquired on that, you will be receiving a follow-up email with who to contact at every one of the 8 Kensington communities. And I encourage you to share that with family and friends, and share this webinar with family and friends. You'll be receiving a copy of the webinar, but you'll also be receiving, what to do next and where to go next. And if you're lucky enough that you live in Northern California, you get to meet Laura in person. But anyway, I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank Robert and Laura and Shami and Melanie. You guys are phenomenal people, and Kensington's lucky to have you on their team.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.